These are the notes that go with section 3.7 in your book. And in this section, you talk about relationships. So we're going to talk about the language of relationships. The first thing we need to do is some definitions. The first two definitions are ones that you looked at today. And we have independent variable, where that's the input. And the nice thing about these is they both begin with in, and those are the x values in a relationship. Dependent variable, those are the output or the y values in a relationship. And function. Function is a word that we've already defined earlier in this module, but we want to just remind ourselves. It's a relationship between two variables, and now we're going to use our new words, an independent and a dependent variable, where for any given input value, there is one unique output value. Now, we're going to use these three definitions because in this section, you were given some new language around relationships and functions. And that language was A versus B, A with respect to B, A relates to B, and A is dependent on B. In all of these examples, in all of these wordings, every single time the independent variable is B and the dependent variable is A. So whatever is the first part of my phrase, something versus something, is the dependent part. And whatever's after the phrase versus with respect to, those are the independent variable. So let's look at 4 examples. In these examples, we are asked to identify the independent and dependent variable, and then determine if the relationship is a function. So in our first example, we have a person's shoe size versus their height. So I have this lovely word versus. That's the key in here that we just defined up above. And so versus, the second part of this sentence, is my independent variable. So my independent is height. And the first part of the sentence prior to the verses is the dependent, so shoe size. So now I need to ask myself, well, is that a function? If I take a height, is it always going to give me one and only one shoe size? And the answer to that is no. You can have a person who is 5'7", and they could have a shoe size of 8 like me, or they could have a shoe size of 9, or they could have a shoe size of 10. So because when you're given a height, you can get more than one shoe size, this is not a function. Number 2, a person's birthday with respect to themselves. So here we have the phrase with respect to, that's the key here. Again, remember that the part of the sentence that comes after the phrase with respect to is my independent variable. So themself, or a person. And the portion that comes at the beginning of the sentence prior to the phrase is the dependent. So a person's birthday. So then I need to test if it's a function. Well, if I pick a person on the street and I ask them, what's your birthday? How many different answers are they going to give me? Well, one would hope that they'd only give you one because it's impossible to be born on 2 different days. So we have that, let's say, everyone has only one birthday. So this is a function. Example 3. In example 3, we have the amount of money I have in my bank account as it relates to the date. So in this case, we have the phrase relates to. Again, remember that the part of the sentence that comes after relates to is the independent variable. So we have date. And the portion that comes before relates to is my dependent, so amount of money. So now I have to ask myself if I have a given date. So let's pick October 31st, 2016. And on that date, the question is, how many different amounts of money can I have on that date? Well, you can think about this in two ways. So this one's kind of a little bit ambiguous because you could look at it before you take out some money and then after you take out some money on the same date. So you could have that at the beginning of the day you had $100 in your account and then you went and took some money out, and so now you have $90 in your account, in which case this is not a function. Now, if you're not adding or subtracting any money from your account, then this would be a function. On a given day, you have a given amount. It's not going to be different depending upon looking at it earlier in the day or later in the day. It would be the same, and so it would be a function. 4, the number of pets I have is dependent on my first name. So again, the phrase we're looking at here is the dependent on. The part of the sentence after that is my independent variable, so first name. The part at the beginning is the dependent, so number of pets. So now is it a function? So I'm going to take my name, and my first name is Nicole, and I'm going to say, well, me, Nicole, I have 2 pets. However, I have a friend on Facebook who also has the same first name as me. Her name is also Nicole, and she has 1 pet. So it looks here like having, the independent variable being the first name Nicole does not mean you'll automatically get only one answer for the dependent variable number of pets. So it is not a function.